Ladies and gentlemen, last night the Eastern Conference Finals started in Boston, and it was a wonderful game. There was runs, there was comebacks, and there was a time in which the Indiana Pacers, who are the underdogs, maybe the biggest in the history of conference final play in the NBA, they end up giving it away late. They lose. Boston steals one at home. Afterwards, they're not happy. Pacers aren't happy. That means this series is about to be electrifying. Joining us now, head coach of the Indiana Pacers, a man who's been a head coach in the NBA for 22 years, Coach Carlisle.
Yeah.
Coach, I know we're bummed.
What's up, guys?
I know we're bummed about what happened last night, but I want to let you know I'm pumped that you are on the show right now. Thank you for making time for us to conversate about a series and a run that your team is on that has been electrifying. Let's dive right in. Last night, okay, going in. Did you hear all the Boston people, Coach? I assume this is something that you hear from listening to your press conferences. I do think you hear some of the outside noise and utilize it as motivation. You guys were the biggest underdogs maybe in the history of NBA conference finals. Your team's moxy and confidence, though, seems to be at a level where it is maybe unstoppable. Going into the game, what was the messaging? What was the thoughts? And how do you think it played out?
Well, the messaging was play our game. Continue to do what we do, which is fight for every inch of the floor, 94 feet, keep pace in the game, be as physically persistent as possible, and keep the ball moving. And when we do those things, that puts us in a position to succeed.
Okay, Coach, and with the game you play, high speed. I mean, the stats that we get about the amount of points that you guys score in the first 10 seconds of the play clock versus every other team that you play against. How come not? Why doesn't everybody play this style? Like this, is it because of a cardio type thing? Is it something that you have to worry about, the type of guys that you have? Why is your team able to do it so well, you think, and maybe others aren't?
Well, we've built the team around a great point guard, obviously with Tyrese Haliburton, who naturally plays that way. He plays fast. He moves the ball quickly. We also have TJ McConnell, who plays fast, who I know is one of your favorite guys.
Oh yeah.
And so if you don't have guys like that can trigger this style of game, it's difficult to do. Also, playing with this level of pace is a big commitment. And many times, most NBA players will tell you, I want to run. I want to play fast. But there's an enormous commitment, a high level of conditioning. It's a 94-foot game. You're not trotting. You're constantly at full exertion. And so, there's a lot going on with it. It's not just as simple as saying, hey, we're going to play fast and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and it's electrifying to watch. I think that's why the entire state, obviously winning is helping it, but the brand and the style in which you guys are winning behind Tyrese, who is beloved in the city already, it's a beautiful thing. Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, speaking of Haliburton, what does he allow you to do as a coach to kind of open things up? Like you said, watching him play, it's crazy watching step back threes from who knows where, and just how quickly he gets the ball out, how well he dishes it. How does that help you as a coach to where you can kind of craft everything around him?
Well, AJ, he runs the team, and when he got here 2.5 years ago, I told him that I had a conversation. How do you feel about being the guy in control, calling plays, getting the team together during the game, being the guy that's the trigger guy? He goes, oh my gosh. He goes, I would love that. And so, we weren't very good 2.5 years ago. And so we had some time to incorporate him into this thing. He got a chance to learn his new teammates as we've gone along the way. And really, he runs the team. And so, when things are happening in real time, on a split-second basis, and players aren't looking over toward the bench for play calls, and the point guard is the guy that is triggering everything, it allows things to happen quicker, more unpredictably, more randomly, and it makes us harder to guard.
Yeah, and he's awesome. The moxy. Yeah. Hey, Coach, he's got some moxy too. Not that TJ McConnell doesn't. TJ McConnell does a walk down the entire court every single time out. Are you not entertained everywhere he goes? Your team's moxy. I assume that's something that you, I don't want to say instill, but is it you find people that have it? How do you get that type of confidence? Because that's what everybody's talking about. This Pacers team is confident, though. It's a confident bunch. How do you think that happens?
Well, we've developed a defiant attitude, toward these playoffs. We understand that each series is a new set of challenges, and things get very personal very quickly. We went through a lot. I mean, in the last 5 days, we've played 3 games in 3 different cities. And 2 of those games were elimination games that we had to win to stay alive, and we did. And so the game last night is disappointing. We're disappointed, but not dismayed. We did a lot of good things. We got cut down on turnovers. I mean, 22 turnovers for 32 points is not Indiana Pacer basketball. One thing I love about our team is the way we pass the ball. We have led the league in the number of passes per game, really from almost start to finish. Last night we had, according to stats that I got, we had 390 passes, and I thought we should have probably had more passes, particularly in the fourth quarter. So there's some things we got to shore up, but I love the fight of our guys. We were down 13 in the third quarter, battled back and got a lead late. And look, it's 1 game in this series, and we've got to get ready for game 2.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought up last night. I think I was going to do it towards the end of this as we were chit-chatting about everything else. I think not only last night, but in the Knicks series, as everybody on earth seemingly fell in love with the way your team plays, you'll go down 9. And I think Jamal Crawford yesterday said that Pascal understands that can go from 10 to 20, or that can go from 10 to 2. It's a runs game, and you guys know that. And it seems like your team answers. It is a answering bunch. Do you feel that?
I do, and look, today's game is so dynamic. 20-point leads. We saw it in the Denver game the other night. They got a 15-point lead at halftime. They had a 20-point lead at one point. And they're at home in the altitude, and those things don't guarantee you anything. You've got to keep playing. And so, look, we got down 12-0 last night. Then we got down 13 points in the third quarter. And look, my job is to keep fresh guys in the game, to keep attacking, to keep moving the ball, and to keep being as defined as we can defensively. And we found in the New York series, the possession stats are so critical. So, we actually out-rebounded Boston by 1 last night, but we lost the possession game because we turned it over 22 times. So that's something we definitely got to fix.
Coach, I'm going to put you in a terrible spot here. You're talking about stats. I'll talk about a stat. I've been pretty loud about it. And yep. You probably know what's coming. We talked about it literally courtside at the Fever game. Hey, God, it is bullshit. Last night, 23 free throws for Boston in regulation, 3 for the Indiana Pacers, 15 free throws in the second half for Boston, 1 for the Indiana Pacers in the second half. Now, obviously, there's a situation that we all saw in the last series, and we all agreed upon. Refs have a tough job. Okay? Refs have a very tough job, Coach. Very tough job. I agree. All sports. Nobody wants to be a ref. Nobody's cheering for refs. But how do you balance that type of thing? Is it just the other team's playing technically sound defense better than you guys are? And do you message that to the team? How do you talk about it to the team whenever it's happening in real time? We're not going to get a lot of calls tonight. Is that something you mentioned? And how do you feel about how basketball is officiated as a stooge out here and putting you in a terrible spot?
Well, listen, I was on the competition committee for many years, and I learned a lot about the mechanics of NBA officiating. I'll start with that. There are thousands of events in an NBA game. When the whistle is blown, NBA referees get the calls right. It's either 89 or 90% of the time, and it may even be higher now. And so, there's a lot going on. But look, we entered all 3 of these series, the Milwaukee series, the New York series, and now the Boston series as the road team, understanding that you're going to go into extremely hostile environments in game 1, game 2, and throughout the series. And that, the officiating, when you're in those environments, you never know exactly what's going to happen. You got to be ready to play through some calls you disagree with, and you got to be able to rise above that stuff. And one of the things we tell our guys is, whatever happens, be stone-faced and always be ready to move to the next play. Again, with so many thousands of events in an NBA game, you've got to be able to be disciplined enough to go from one thing to the next. Like, you might miss a shot or miss a layup and be pissed off about that, but then you've got to go from that to running back and finding a guy that's probably a great offensive player and then squaring that guy up and doing your job within the system. And so, our guys have learned a lot about the process of doing that. there's always going to be things you disagree with. When you talk about the statistics of a game or the number of fouls or number of free throws or whatever, we've got to look at it as objectively as we can and figure out ways that we can make those stats better for ourselves.
I think you challenged like 78 fouls or something like that.
Games 1 and 2.
Yeah, it was a record amount of things sent in. And it's because I believe you guys had to represent for the fans, us, who were like, feels like we're getting worked here. And obviously the team and the city, hey, right now you feel it, right? Don't you? You have to feel it here in Indiana. That Cambridge Fieldhouse, what did Austin Rivers say?
I haven't lost a home game since March 18th.
Do you feel it? You have to feel it. Like it is awesome right now in the city behind you guys.
Well, listen, and there's nothing like playing conference finals games in Indianapolis, sandwiched between the Indianapolis 500 on race weekend. I mean, it is the ultimate. It's the ultimate environment, and so we're very much looking forward to getting back there, Pat. But we've got another game.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, sorry, coach. Coach. Yeah.
And with the stuff with the officials, I'm not gonna. I've already spent one semester of my daughter Abby's education at the University of Virginia with what you referenced, before. I'm not going to talk about, those things in the same kind of public way. But look, we looked at the tape today. We had a long meeting with our team. We know the things that we have to do differently and adjust and do better, and we very much look forward to getting back out there tomorrow night.
Hell yeah. Well, a couple of questions here, and we can't thank you enough for joining us in the middle of this. Let's talk about that atmosphere you chatted about. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Coach, a lot of people were saying that on the broadcast on ESPN, they weren't as pumping the crowd noise as much, and you couldn't really hear it. Being on the court, obviously, you can. How was the atmosphere in the Garden, and also did it feel as big as a moment as it was watching? Because it did seem as though the stakes obviously are much higher, and that the atmosphere and the energy from both sides and the fans was at an all-time high, at least from this playoff run.
Well, listen, I came into the NBA as a third-round pick in 1984. I played 3 years with the Boston Celtics. We went to the finals each of those 3 years and won a championship in 1986. And so I'm well acquainted with the Boston sports fan and the Boston Celtics fan. They are phenomenal. And, we go from Madison Square Garden Game 7 in New York City with Knicks fans to, Game 1 of this series. And, you're getting two of the best crowds in all of the NBA. And the only thing I think is going to be close is probably Gainbridge Fieldhouse this weekend.
Hell yeah. Now, the messaging for your team and for the city has been one that has been well received by everybody that's heard it. Go ahead, D-Bo.
Yep, you talked about that championship in '86. You're one of 11 coaches that have won it as a player and as a coach, so congratulations there. And another place that you did win it down in Miami, obviously a great fan base as well against Mojitos.
Wow.
Heat fan, got a still sore spot there. But do you prefer, I guess, being the underdog as a head coach when you're getting guys ready? Obviously, from the outside looking in, you say, hey, all the pressure's on Boston. They're, minus 1,000 to win this series or whatnot. But is it easier for you to kind of get the guys going as a coach when you are that underdog?
Well, we've been an underdog all the way through this. I believe we were an underdog against Milwaukee. And look, we started off on the road in all three series. Look, whatever the circumstances are, in a leadership position as a head coach, you take those circumstances, you digest it, and you figure out the best possible way to get your team ready. And so, the challenge of in this series of playing the team that's been the number one team all year in the NBA, really from start to finish, wire to wire. They ran away with the Eastern Conference. They've had the best record in the league all the way through. I mean, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. And so last night didn't work out the way we wanted it to in the end, but we're looking forward to the next opportunity tomorrow night, man.
I love that attitude and mindset. I was devastated last night, Coach. Coach, it was late, Wife and I got a 1-year-old. So normally we don't stay up late, fall asleep during a lot of these games, and then watch it back in the morning and figure out what the hell happened. I was up last night. Wife was up last night. One stream was 15 to 20 seconds ahead of another one. There was communications happening at like 11:30 at night. I mean, we're pumped for the team. And the way the team represents the city, I think, is a massive piece of this whole thing on why it's beautiful, let alone being the underdog and then the uninvited guests and the way the team is. It's like a perfect match, which leads to Ty's question, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, I think we saw, especially last year, like obviously, some of these teams that make it on these deep finals runs, you have the star players, but then the guys who come off the bench, and Denver especially, like their bench contributors, that was a massive reason why they won the title. For you, and namely one guy like TJ McConnell, what does it mean for a guy like that to be able to come off the bench and spell some of your other starters? And obviously, like what he means to the team as a whole, just being as gritty and tough and kind of dependable as he is.
Well, I think, the term I use for TJ, he's a defiant competitor. And I would think that, you guys, a lot of you guys played NFL football at a very high level. I mean, the football mentality has got to be, a similar type thing. And so, he's a dog, man. He gets after it, and he brings a spirit, an infectious spirit to our team, and he's one of the big reasons that we've had the success that we've had. And I do, by the way, want to say, Pat, please send my love to Sam. It was a pleasure meeting her the other night. You and I have both married way above our pay grade. With our two wives, I mean, it's like not even close to being funny.
Amen.
But
I don't know your wife.
But yeah, and so that was it was a pleasure getting a chance to spend some time with you and her the other night.
Well, we appreciated your hospitality. I didn't want to pepper you too much because we're in the middle of a playoff run. But the fact that you joined us in the middle of this, one day after or less than a day after what happened last night, we're incredibly grateful, Coach. Good luck out there. Let's rally the boys, huh? Mm-hmm. Let's rally the boys. What happened in the final 15 seconds doesn't define us, Coach. Does it? No, never.
Respect.
Hell yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Carlisle.
Yeah, Coach.